Hello everybody, my name is Ryan Belmonte. I'm here this afternoon with the Salon Guy, and today we're going to film a masculine haircutting tutorial. And so why I say it like that is because in the new age of different genders and different options for people, I don't necessarily want to say male haircut versus female haircut. Of course there is a difference when a male or a female is in your chair, but again, just being respectful with the new age, we're going to try to refer to this as a masculine haircut today. And then as opposed to a feminine. So no matter what gender is in your chair, the most important part is how am I going to make this haircut look more masculine, or how do I want to make this haircut look more feminine? And so today, when we're working with a shorter fabric, shape is going to be key. We're going to talk about shape horizontally, but more important, we're going to talk about shape vertically. When it comes to charging for a men's haircut or a short haircut, I know that there's a lot of people now that are charging same price for both and calling it non-binary and whatnot, and so I've always charged the same for both. One thing that I use is a scissor and a comb. I'm not a barber. I don't claim to be, and so I don't use a clipper, and so there's nothing wrong with barbering, but it's a totally different world than what I do today. And so if you are a barber and you're looking to pick up some tips on how to maybe make your haircut a little bit more bespoke, a little bit more personalized, cutting hair with a scissor as opposed to a clipper, we look at it like this. It's a tailored suit versus an off-the-rack suit. And so you'll pick up some pointers today from me as far as how do you want to charge? How do you want to run your chair? And so we're going to talk about all of that today, the difference between barbering and haircutting, etc., etc. But more importantly, this is the before of my model. A couple things that you could see, and I love this because I think that when we work behind the chair, often we're doing corrective haircutting. And so just like a corrective color, I need to take my canvas into consideration. So the first thing that I notice when I look at my guest, let's just give you a quick before. The first thing that I notice is that the bulk of his hair and the length of his hair is sitting very far inside the parietal ridge, right? Is quite above the parietal ridge, sitting to about here. So that's something that I need to take into consideration. That's on both sides. And so when I say corrective haircutting, I need to balance out the length in the top with the length in the sides. The next thing that I'm noticing, and again, when we speak of short hair, the margin for error is much tighter. Every detail makes a difference. And so right now, if we look at the vertical shape, it's coming in quite round because it's sitting over the parietal ridge. My goal today is to change the length and the shape vertically and come in nice and flat and square. And that's going to be the key difference in making a haircut masculine as opposed to feminine. So when it comes to scissor over comb, I'm going to have a multitude of tools that I'm going to use as far as the size and width of my combs. And so what you could see is I have 3 different combs right here, and they're all in different widths. This would give me the longest length, this will give me a shorter length, and then my tapering comb, because it's so flexible, I'm able to get as tight as humanly possible. If I need to get into a 000, what I'll utilize is the shear right on the skin, and we'll talk about that later. Obviously that's something you want to practice first and not go right in with, but again, if you're used to working with a clipper or a barber, look at this as your guard. Look at the width of your comb as your guard, and so this might be my 3, this would be my 2, this could be my 1, if that makes sense. And so when I'm working a scissor over comb, the first thing that I want to do, again, if I want to work square, I want to find and start at the flattest part of the head. It's always going to be right above the ear. So you'll notice that I'm going to work above the ear. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on a slight diagonal. When we work horizontally, when we cut hair, we naturally want to put weight into the hair. And so you'll notice I'll work on slight diagonals, which will give me a cleaner overall effect. Another little trick, notice the color of my shirt. And so knowing that my model's hair was dark today, I know we can't bring 15 shirts with us to the salon, but having a clean background is going to help us see the silhouette, and that's always what's most important. If I had a black shirt on today, and I turned my guest into the mirror, I wouldn't be able to see the silhouette, and I could show you. It's very hard to see the silhouette like this, isn't it? When I drop that, now I could see a nice clean vertical shape. And so again, I'm focusing on my vertical shape. My comb is going to be coming up and gently out. My scissor is always going to be moving Still blade moving blades. Notice how one blade's not moving and the other blade is. And so I find that being a DJ, one of the most important things in DJing is having a rhythm, right? Kind of really important in general life. And so same thing and rules apply with scissor over comb. We want to be in a great rhythm. If I'm chopping like this at different paces, I'm going to have an uneven result. I want to be as clean as possible. So getting into that rhythm, you're going to notice I'm going to get into that scissor over comb rhythm before I even put the shear into the head. I'm just going to start working my shear, okay? And this is the shape that I'm looking for. Sectioning off gently at the parietal ridge. And so the one thing I also want to note is the hair has been prepped. It has been washed and blown dry. Notice that his hair is dry. Scissor over comb, by definition, is a refining technique to be done on dry hair. And so I'm wetting down the top of his hair just to allow me to control and keep this out of the way. I'm going to start on the left side, again, above the ear. My vertical shape is going to be square. My horizontal shape will be round, always, because I want to create as lean a look as possible. A couple things I'm taking into consideration. Parietal ridge, noting that I have some length right here, I want to work a shorter length up into this so that I could get a nice clean square side. I'm also going to respect the hairline. And so we see that naturally the hairline comes up and then comes back down. So you'll notice I won't work with a heavy weight line horizontally. My weight line in the back will dip down gently under the parietal ridge. In starting our masculine shape, I'm going to start with this comb, again because of length. My black comb is a little bit too wide for the length that he's working on, so I'm coming in with my more narrow option. Starting above the ear, which is the flattest part of the head, inserting my comb in the wide teeth. We want to cut this hair natural fall. I don't want unwanted over direction, and so as the hair is longer, you're going to notice that I'm working with the wider teeth of the comb. As the hair gets shorter, then I'll start to work with the tighter teeth. My motion is on a slight diagonal, and you'll notice that as I get closer to the parietal ridge, I'm digging the spine of the comb into his head and rocking back. And what that's doing is allowing me to maintain some length, and you can see already it's starting to become a flatter shape. When working on a short fabric, it's very difficult to do this and check length. And so we use light reflection. So you'll notice throughout the tutorial, I'll be changing the angle of his head and looking at him from different angles so that I could judge the length and the vertical shape. The shorter that the hair is, the lighter it appears. The longer, the darker. And so he has a different little color here mixed in. Right, he has some slight natural highlights. So that's another thing that I'm taking into consideration when choosing length. Working on a slight diagonal towards the front of the face. And as you can see here, I'm just cleaning up underneath and I'm starting to get longer in the parietal area. And that's exactly what I want to do. I'm almost setting up a wall, if you will, for his haircut to sit on. The ears tend to be a bit of a problem area. So you always want to make sure that your comb is protecting your shear. You never want to be like this. You'll have an opportunity maybe to nip the ears. So again, making sure that comb and scissor are working at the same pace, on the same angle. You'll also notice that my comb is now tilted back because I want to make sure that I follow that natural hairline with my weight line. Again, removing length underneath and working up into my weight line. And again, everybody works differently. Some people like to set their weight line in first and then work towards that. What I don't want to do is build weight and then have to remove it. And so I'm just naturally and gently working from short to long. As we get into the hairline, you're going to notice later when I use my tapering comb, there's so many different growth patterns in this area. So I'm going to have to work this in a lot of different motions, and we'll go over that in detail later. But it's just something that I'm taking into consideration, taking into mind. Now, when it comes to changing men's hair, often because the length is so short, we don't always have a huge opportunity to create exuberant change. And so again, it's all about the details. So he may not look completely different today, but you'll notice that these details are going to change the overall outcome of the haircut. Again, the length is not changing so much as the vertical shape. Same motion, coming in tight, working up to the bridle, and now I'm starting to rock back to create some distance between me and the crown. I find this is an area often where a lot of hairdressers will come up a little bit too high and start to push that haircut up. And so I want to make sure that I'm coming right in this area here. If I scissor over comb too tight, I'll push the haircut forward, and the haircut won't naturally sit on the hair. It won't have proper balance to it and proportion. Just using my water and my spray bottle for control, the hair on the top, so I do not need to clip it away. When sectioning, we use wide teeth. When grooming, we use the tighter teeth. And so the tighter teeth will give me that control that I'm seeking. And again, separating, using that natural separation that he came in with, and we're going to work off of that. Again, finding that flatter spot, which is right above the ear. I'm going to work on a slight diagonal towards the front. Notice my fingers in the air while I scissor over comb. It's just something that I naturally do for balance with the shear. And so sometimes when we work like this, we don't have the control we seek. And so by sticking that finger up, it gives me better balance. Right in here, you'll notice that the head really pulls away. And so I'm taking that into consideration, making sure that I'm rocking back and coming straight up and down. Often in the salon, there might be an area where we see a mistake and we come to the side and we look at it and we can't quite see where it is. And so again, when looking in the mirror, use your finger and then come to the side and you can see exactly where you need to refine. Notice I'm not working with a thinning shear, I'm using scissor over comb to blend. And so though it takes a little bit more time, again, it's something that I could charge more for. And so, you know, again, the main difference between cutting hair with a scissor and barbering really is going to be time, and the fact that we're getting an opportunity to create something bespoke here. I have a little bit more of an intimate relationship with the scalp as opposed to if I had a machine in here. And so I'm able to really customize this haircut exactly to his head shape. And again, I think that's what the cool opportunity is when working with such a short fabric. We have an opportunity to sculpt. And so when we look at longer hair in the salon, when we cut longer hair, no matter how perfect it is, it needs to be styled because gravity is going to have a pull on it. When I work on a men's haircut or a really short masculine shape, I have an opportunity to sculpt this hair to his scalp the way that I like. So for the next 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to look exactly the same every single day, whether he blow dries or not. Grooming this hair back out of the way, now I'm going to come in with my tapering comb. And so what's great about a tapering comb is that it's flexible. So I can now make this length as tight as I'd like. As I dig it into his scalp, I could get closer and closer. So we're going to start off, same area, same steps, same rules apply, same vertical shape, but now this time I'm going to get a shorter length. So you can see that right in here, it's a bit shorter right now. I'm going to take that even shorter so that we're working from shortest to longest. So now you're really starting to see that vertical shape come into play. As we turn to the side, you can see how we're getting tighter and tighter. And so I'll come in here later with my shear right on the skin and clean that up and fade that in for him. The more pressure that I apply on my thumb, the shorter I could get this length. Now, look at the growth patterns in here. This is growing heavily in. So this is not going to cut the proper length. I need to come back the opposite way and make sure that I hit that. So you'll see me pushing back opposite to the hair growth to cut that hair in that region shorter. And that's the thing about scissor over comb. You can't just come in one certain way. You have to make sure that you work the hair in all different kinds of angles. And so you'll see me pull that right shoulder up as I come through and round that, and you can see now how it's starting to get shorter because I'm working opposite of the hair growth. Again, putting a lot of pressure on my thumb towards the nape and the hairline, and then backing off as I come up the head. So that same motion of digging the spine in and rocking off now becomes digging my thumb in and then releasing pressure. So going back in now, taper on my opposite side. Again, working with that flexible comb, starting in the same spot above the ear, using the pressure of my thumb to control length. My comb is acting as my finger here. If the hair was wet, it would not come directly out from the scalp. There would be some bend and a little bit of mush at the root. And so again, by working on a dry fabric, I'm able to pull that hair directly out from where it lives and cut it. The angle of my scissor is also important. So keeping my scissor flat to my comb is going to ensure that I'm getting a smoother shape here. Notice I'm using my guest and changing and turning his head to get in the right position. And so I don't need to be doing yoga while I'm cutting short hair. I'm just going to allow for my guest to angle and turn their head to allow for my job to be a little bit easier. Notice I'm pushing away a lot. What that's allowing me to do is get that space between me and the parietal ridge. Seeing how I'm coming down gently to meet that occipital with my weight line. Again, hair growth is coming down and in, so I'm going to work away from it. Keeping my scissor angled, the point of my shears tighter to the scalp, making sure that I'm still working from short to long. Coming in with the tighter teeth now, because the hair is shorter, and refining that. And so as we need to start cleaning up this hair in here, we have the opportunity of coming in with an edger, which we could do if you want some stronger, harder lines in there. But if we want to keep it soft and blended, we want to stretch the skin, put the shear directly on it, and start to work. And so what I tell my clients is, you're going to have a still blade on your skin. If you don't move, I cannot cut you. And that usually gets them to sit pretty still. And so now it's all about control. Working in circular motions just because the hair is growing in that way. So I need to really control my hand so that I'm cleaning up that exterior without going too short in here. Ears can be a bit tricky. A great trick to use. Make a claw, like you're showing your nails off, and then stick your comb inside that knuckle right there. So your thumb is free. And the thumb is going to come here and hold the ear while I'm able to get in here and work like this. And so I need the tight teeth in this area, but you'll see I'm able to work just like this and not have to worry about the ear getting in the way. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And then that's growing very strong down. So I'm gonna come in here, stretch, work that, and then just gently work this in. So you'll see here as I'm shifting vertically, the angle of my shear is important because now that's controlling my length. So as horizontally my comb controls my length, when I have to come in vertically, the angle of my shear is controlling my length. So I always want to be like this rather than this. So we shift to the top, I want to create some connection within that disconnection. And so this area right here, I want to cut from short to long inside my fingers. And so I'm working with my shear down, working up on that. My elevation is straight out, if not slightly up. And so again, I'm not looking to graduate the hair per se, I'm looking to just cut it from short to long. So I don't want to build too much weight, so you'll notice I'm pulling up on the hair as I cut it. My sections are vertical. My over direction is slightly back. Again, I want to build weight towards the recession, which is usually the most narrow part of the head. So my over direction is slightly back to push some of that weight forward for him. So now you can really start to see that profile take shape and it's nice and flat. On this side, making sure that I'm angling my fingers slightly toward me so that the length is going from shorter to longer still. Creating a little bit of space and allowing for the parietal ridge to create my shape for me. Over direction still slightly back. So my horizontal shape is triangular. My vertical shape is triangular. Now, if I wanted to create a more feminine shape, the only thing that I would do differently is I would allow for my fingers to round off and work inside the head shape, inside the parietal. Again, not a ton of length coming off here, but it's just creating some proportion and some balance from that longer top length into the length in the sides. The crown tends to be an area that a lot of people struggle with. And so one thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that this haircut doesn't sit too high up. And so I'm coming in with my crown section. Again, rather than U-ing this off, I'm going to square it up. So you can see I'm really filling in that shape and not pushing the haircut too far forward. Opposite side, switching finger position, making sure that I'm pushing the weight to the center back now and going along with the same shape that we chose for our scissor over comb, which was a round horizontal shape. So horizontally I'm working round, vertically I'm working square. For the top, the length is just too long and it's creating too much round or ovalness in an area of his head that's more narrow. And so to balance that out a little bit, we're going to take the length down. He also tends to wear his hair to one side, so I'm going to cut this asymmetrically. And so my over direction will be back. My vertical shape will be short to long. First section in the crown straight up, choosing a length. And cutting up to it, and now everything will work off of that guide. Again, my over direction is slight back. My cutting line is short to long. Creating essentially almost a, think of like putting a Gumby on top of the head, for those of you that remember a Gumby haircut. And so a really square haircut would be a flat top. An asymmetric, short to long, would create a Gumby. And so blow dry is important. I just want it to be natural, so you can see I'm just using my hand to just allow for this to fall natural. And my last scissor over comb is going to buffer out any lines. Again, think of it as like that thinning shear step where you're just blending everything in. But I'm going to do that scissor over comb, allowing for this cowlick or this whorl here to dry naturally so that I could cut it directly into the head shape. Once the hair is dry, combing everything into place and just assessing. Now the first thing that I notice, the length is too long in the front. And so I find that this is a problem area with men. What I would like to do today is create a little bit more of a cropped cut to give him something a little bit more square up front. And so I'm going to cut this with low elevation. Again, just strengthening. You can see how thin that hair gets as it gets longer. So just strengthening that length. Combing and checking. And still working it shorter to longer. This way he could wear it strong, or he could comb it to the side like this. And see how much stronger that is and how that fills everything in? Now there's much more balance. The sides being more square, the top being asymmetric, but still more square. And we're allowing for his wave to kind of take over in the style. And so again, today more than creating length and change, we created length and shape. So now I'm just combing through, cleaning up this edge here so that it falls over controlled. And so this is just my final buffering. Just coming through and almost like sandpaper, just refining everything one last time. Depending on length is how tight I'll need to go with my teeth. And this is my final blend, controlling that shorter length into that longer length. Right now I'm looking at like a lot of light reflection, a lot of color and length. Anything that doesn't fit vertically, I need to make sure that horizontally it looks well too. And so I think this is really where that intimate piece of having that shear is going to allow me to really control where that vertical shape and just that natural eye meet. Because vertically, if everything is square, horizontally it looks quite different. And so again, it's just having that balance in eye and connecting the dots. Getting rid of what doesn't need to be there, strengthening what might be a little bit weaker. The wider teeth's usually going to be most effective at this part. If you have a cowlick or a whorl or something that's not fitting into the haircut, now would be the time to just cut that in just like this. And you would come in and just carve. And this is just my insurance as far as him having to come back sooner or later. Cleaning up some fuzz around the neck or the face. I think one thing that's really neat about a scissor over comb haircut is that we could give more of a natural hairline, and that's what I'm opting for today. So there's no real hard blend from skin to length. Everything just kind of meshes and melts together. It's an option that I find that I'll recommend most of my guests because again, it's just going to grow out a little bit softer and a little bit cleaner. Going in with my SalonGuy Shadow Grip Pomade. Just as I would do in the salon, I'm going to show my model how I would work that in my hands before applying. I'm going to rub it in just like lotion, and then I'm just going to start to gently work that through his hair. I really like this product because it gives a nice amount of shine, but again, it's natural shine, so it's going to shine that hair up but not make it look too greasy. Notice styling I'm going to come away from and then place back down. I think if we just style everything down, there's not enough texture. It tends to get a little bit glued to the head shape. And so I would refer to this as an asymmetric modern crop. What's great about this cut is he could style it down like this, or if he wanted to work it up and get some height in front and really utilize that shape, he could do that as well. It's the final reveal of our masculine corrective haircut. Again, remember he came in quite narrow and not very square vertically, and so we worked with our scissor and our comb very flat on the sides. We created a shorter distance and proportion between the long length that he was working with up top and the sides to create an overall square, more masculine shape. I hope you guys loved the tutorial. Steven the Salon Guy, thanks again, and hope to see you soon.